Shake off this sadness and recover your spirit. Sluggish, you'll never see the wheel of fate that brushes your heel as it turns going by. The man who wants to live is the man in whom life is abundant. It's always good to remind yourself now and then of words like that. That was from Spanish essayist, novelist, sometimes poet Miguel de Unamuno. And that's a beautiful first stanza. The rest of the poem just kind of falls apart. It's not that great. So we're just going to do that part. But there are moments in life. I've been writing a lot this morning and editing, and then I added in like all these paragraphs to this thing I'm writing. It was going to be a really short piece, but now it's turning into a long piece. And then I have another super long piece that's just turned into a monster. But anyway, and I feel like the poet there, he couldn't stick the landing in that poem. That's why I didn't read the rest of it. And I'm feeling like in a similar way with my long form writing. But anyway, it's a good reminder. It's a good reminder. Now is the time for the sayable. And along those lines, I am going to do another Swedish poet today. It's another beautiful day. And his name was Gunnar Ekelöf. And he was a little bit more fanciful and influenced by like French symbolism, Persian and Indian mysticism. Not that Transtromer wasn't, but he was more into this dream space, and he played a little more fast and loose with his words. And you have to watch him. You have to watch him and see if he's being true to himself and true to what the poem is trying to say. And it's like the multiplicity of meanings and the symbolism, but it's also like maybe he went a little too far on this one. I don't know. I love this poem. This poem it's translated by Robert Bly. He did a collection. I believe this is from the collection that he did, Friends Who Drank Some Darkness, about 3 Swedish poets. And this is from 1932. Ekelöf lived a shorter life than Transtromer or Bly. His dates were 1907, and I think he died in 1967. And one little interesting sidelight about him, he came from kind of a wealthy background, although I think his family lost a lot of wealth in the 30s. His father had been a stockbroker, just really shockingly successful. He came from nowhere in Småland and moved to Stockholm and just had the Midas touch. And so young Gunnar traveled a lot when he was young. He wasn't all that serious of a student, but I think it was like Persian poetry, Indian mysticism, and then some of the French symbolism, and it just snapped into place for him. And he's like, I can do that. I'm going to write some poems too. And he wrote some gorgeous ones. But an interesting sidelight, I think he died of cancer in the 60s, but he'd spent a lot of time in Turkey and studying ancient civilizations, and his ashes were actually spread into the river. What's it called? I want to say Patroclus, but it's not. It's Pactolus, the old Lydian city of Sardis, which had the golden dust. It is kind of with. Actually, I mentioned Midas. Actually, that was kind of the genesis of this myth of the golden touch with King Midas. Anyway, I'm drifting off into nonsense, gibberish, but let's do this poem. I promise you it's worth it. I discovered this when I was in college in New Hampshire, and I wrote an essay about it, and my professor in the English department, she said I didn't understand the poem, and I think she didn't understand the poem. But anyway, that'll never be solved. Anyway, it goes, the flowers doze in the window. Sometimes, I think it was an untitled poem, but they sometimes do that. They just put in the first line as the title. The flowers doze in the window, and the lamp gazes light. The window gazes with thoughtless eyes out into the dark. Paintings exhibit without soul the thought confided to them. And houseflies stand still on the walls and think. The flowers lean into the night, and the lamp weaves light. The cat in the corner weaves woolen yarn to sleep with. On the stove, the coffee pot snores now and then with pleasure. The children play quietly on the floor with words. The table set with white cloth is waiting for someone whose feet never will come up the stairs. A train whistle, tunneling through the silence in the distance, does not find out what the secret of things is, but fate counts the strokes of the pendulum by decimals. I'm just going to leave that there. I've been grappling with that poem for a long time. I don't think about it all that often, but it struck me, and it does that kind of dreamlike imagery, and you have to go over it a number of times and look at how the interplay between the words and the lines and the stanzas, and it's telling a story, but it's not like close observation like some of the other poems I've been reading. This is definitely in that more mystical space, and I like it because it's not just like direct observation. It's not just close observation of phenomena or nature or anything like that. It's definitely lifted off, but at the same time, he does use. I like any poem that has words like coffee pot in them, and what is the other word that I like? But it is, it's like you're definitely in this kind of like liminal dream space, but then there's a precision and an ordinariness to some of the language, and it's the objects. It's the interplay of the objects. It's not like the description of them themselves that lead you off into this kind of imaginal space. And so I don't think that made any sense, but the poem is really good, at least. And I'm actually going to read that again, because every time I read it, I see something different in it. And we'll do this a little bit faster, and but it really starts to sink in if you read it twice. It's like the flowers doze in the window, and the lamp gazes light. The window gazes with thoughtless eyes out into the dark. Paintings exhibit without soul the thought confided to them. And houseflies stand still on the walls and think. The flowers lean into the night, and the lamp weaves light. The cat in the corner weaves woolen yarn to sleep with. On the stove, the coffee pot snores now and then with pleasure. Children play quietly on the floor with words. The table set with white cloth is waiting for someone whose feet never will come up the stairs. Train whistle, tunneling through the silence in the distance, does not find out what the secret of things is, but fate counts the strokes of the pendulum by decimals. And so that ends today's reading. I'm loving this little clearing in the forest. It reminds me of the forest I grew up in. I come from the forest. I am of the forest. I got lost in cities for a while, but I may go back. But I'm I'm in nature now and enjoying it and along the trail, and I wish you a fantastic day. Thank you.